Welcome to tonight's forum for Pullman School Board. The two candidates from District 4 are Deena Bayoni and Hannah Martian, and two candidates for District 5 are Stephanie Horn and Brandon Kruger. I'm Kat Odell, and I will be the moderator for tonight's forum. I would like to thank you all for joining us this evening. This forum will be recorded and available on our website, our website, lwvpullman.org. It should be posted within a few days. We will begin our meeting, as we begin all of our meetings, with our nonpartisan statement. The League of Women Voters of Pullman and Whitman County's nonpartisan statement. The League acts in support of or in opposition to selected governmental issues which its members have studied. It does not support or oppose candidates, factions, or political parties. League members, as individuals, are urged to work in the political parties of their choice. To protect the League's nonpartisanship policy, guidelines regarding the political activities of the Board of Directors are reviewed frequently. The League of Women Voters of Pullman is fully committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion in principle and practice. The concepts are central to our current and future success in engaging all individuals, households, communities, and policymakers in creating a more perfect democracy. We acknowledge and honor the sovereignty of the First Peoples of the Palouse region and their descendants, including our neighbors, the Nez Perce, Nimupu, the Palouse tribes, and Confederated tribes of the Colville Reservation and Coeur d'Alene tribes. Before we begin, let's review how things are done. We ask that you write any questions you have for the candidates on the cards provided on your seats. You may ask as many questions as you want, and you can start writing them down. When done, raise the cards to be collected. League members seated at this front table sort the questions by topic. Duplicate or similar questions may be paraphrased or combined. They also ensure that questions are legible. To help me out, please write as clearly as possible. We will get to as many questions as time allows. If we don't get to your question, I encourage you to talk to candidates after the forum. Now, also please turn off and silence your cell phones and refrain from clapping, booing, or any other disruptive behavior. We will begin with opening remarks, and each candidate will have 2 minutes. And we're going to start at the far end with Brandon.
Thank you all for coming tonight. As she said, my name is Brandon Kruger, and I'm a parent and a spouse of a district employee, and I've lived in Pullman since I went to school here, and started in the fall of 2004 at WSU, and I've been trying to be an active and engaged member of our community. We really love it here. We stayed because of the Pullman School District, quite honestly. My wife really wanted to work here. And so she got a job, and she's been here working ever since. And I've worked for Whitman County in the Public Works Department. Was there for about 13 years, and then over the last few years I've been at home with our kids until I recently started a business of my own, going into general contracting. But I truly care about and believe in the public education system in general. I come from a family of educators. My mom's a teacher, my dad's been a substitute, my brother substitute teaches, my sister-in-law is also a teacher in the district here, and it's just something I've been around. I've grown up around public schools in my mom's classroom, and my dad as a coach in basketball, gymnasiums, and so I really care about public schools and just everything that's around it and what it does for our community and the culture that it can create and how it can bring people together at community events. And I think we have really great teachers and staff. I've got to meet them by volunteering. I've been a volunteer softball coach. I've also volunteered at Franklin Elementary at field days and on field trips, and just engaging and meeting teachers and other coaches. It's just a pleasure, and it's a great place to work and be, and a great place to send your kids to school, and I'd like to see it stay that way. So that's why I'm running for the board, and I'd just like to be a voice for our community on the board and represent the constituents in that way.
I'm just a titch older than Brandon. My name is Stephanie Horn. I have been here in Pullman since 1992 when I came to college to go to WSU and get my teaching certificate. I've known since I was 5 years old that I wanted to be a teacher. My mom wanted me to be a nurse, sorry Mom. But teaching is another nurturing occupation. I love children. I would have had 20 of my own if I could have, but I had 4, and they all went through the Pullman School District. We did leave for 4 years, and we came back as soon as I possibly could because I wanted my kids to grow up in Pullman, be Cougars, and be a part of our great school district that we do have here. I was able to stay home for a long time with my kids, and then in 2011, I decided I wanted to use that teaching degree. So I got a job at Pullman School District. I was working in special ed at the time. And then after about a year and a half of that, I took over for someone, so I did that for about a year and a half. And then I ended up in the first grade classroom. I replaced a teacher who had retired at Jefferson, which is the school that my kids went to. I was very active as a teacher in as many things that I could be. One of the big ones was the teachers union and supporting teachers, learning together and growing together was very important to me. One of the reasons that I'm running for school board is that I want to continue to be a part of education in Pullman, Washington. My husband's retiring at the end of this year. Lord help us. We'll see how that goes. Sorry, honey. But the school board is a way that being on the school board is a way that I can give back and ensure that all the kids that I've already had go through my classroom as first graders and future grandchildren. I hope I've got a daughter that's married in town. But I'm just really excited for this opportunity.
Hi everyone, my name is Martian. I'm running for District 4. A little bit about me. I am currently a PhD student at WSU, as if there is any other university I'd be going to in this area. I'm in the Cultural Studies and Education program. I teach in the Sport Management department. That's what my bachelor's and my master's are both in. So I also work here at the Library and Youth Services, so I get to work with babies at story time all the way up to our genius undergrads coming in freshman year, hungover on a Thursday morning. But so I have been a substitute for the past couple of years as well in the district. I've subbed at all the schools, and I really feel I offer a unique perspective where I am interacting with students and teachers in the classroom, and then I'm also here at the library and interacting with kids and their parents at programs and helping them find the Dogman books out on the floor. So I don't have a kid in the district, but I think that education affects us all, and the next generation who's going through the schools now are going to be the people leading me into the future. So I would like them to be as educated as possible. So yeah, that's a little bit about me, why I'm running, and I'll pass it to Deena.
My name is Deena Bayoni. I am also a candidate for District 4. I was raised in Pullman, spent quite a bit of time on the East Coast, and then returned and have 2 kids currently in elementary school in the district. I have a background in education policy and have been actively involved with the school board and with other volunteer groups that interact with the school board. I feel like the school district and the schools within this community are an underappreciated resource, and that the schools in many ways why we retain people in Pullman. And I think it's important that a board member or a board director ensures that they are accountable to the public and are transparent in their decision making. And unfortunately, that hasn't always been the case. And I think that it's important that we change that, and that was my primary motivation for running. I think that we can do better and ensure that we can be a more professional board that's accountable to students, the families, the community at large, including the teachers and paras and staff in the school district. So, thank you very much.
Okay, so now we will get on to the questions, and you will have 2 minutes to answer each question. The first question that we have, and we'll start with Stephanie on this question. The first question is the OSPI, the State Office of Public Instruction, has recently had its budget drastically cut. The superintendent has concentrated resources on STEM program, eliminating support for social studies teachers, including civics education. Will you continue to support these programs locally?
Absolutely. I said this the last time we were here, was that in July. We've got to get creative, and these are important subjects that need to be in the schools. It's not just Pullman, it's not just Washington State, as you probably all well know. There are cuts to education across the country. Everybody is suffering. I shared this the other day. We were at the Washington Youth Alliance. Some of us were. We're at the Washington Youth Alliance event, and we were the students, the high school students, were asking us similar questions, and I just said it's time for us to get creative. I've had the opportunity. One of my favorite things that I've done while working on this campaign is I've gotten out in the community and talked to many of you, and I've had such a great time getting to know people. We have so many resources. We have so many people that want to give back to our district. I feel like we have so many untapped, to use the word resources again, sorry, that I would like us to just be able to communicate more and be more transparent with everybody in our community, whether they have a child or grandchild in the district or not. That's the greatest thing that I've figured out, is that whether they have a stake in the game or whatever you want to say, so many people love our community, they love our school district, and they want to be a part of it. We can tap into talents of all of those people, and we can get some of these resources back. Fundraising, grant writing, volunteers, speakers who can come in and even make our curriculum even more robust even with those cuts.
Sure. I can absolutely value and appreciate the value of STEM education and the hard sciences. As someone who works in the social sciences and has a couple of degrees in that area, I can also attest to how important that work is. Usually we see the first cuts at the K through 12 level are our arts programs, our music programs, and folks a lot of the times don't see the value in those types of programs, but those are essential to giving students a creative outlet, making students more creative, coming up with those creative solutions that Stephanie was talking about. And so you have to have everything to have well-rounded students at any level. So I am always opposed to cuts in arts and that kind of stuff, just because of how important those are, especially in a district like Pullman where you have, there's so many opportunities for students to do different types of things at all levels. And so I think that diversity in that range of programs available, of social opportunities that are available, is what makes Pullman such an awesome district. And so retaining those is super important.
I have an undergraduate degree in biochemistry and then went on to get a master's in public administration and policy, and then a doctorate in public administration and policy. And I can tell you that my background in STEM really enriched my understanding of more the social sciences that I was studying, and helped me become a more well-rounded individual in general. And unfortunately, budget cuts are just a reality that we are going to have to deal with in the foreseeable future. With that said, I do think that there are avenues where we can be more creative if we rely on non-traditional sources of income or just resources in general. And I think that there is a way to incorporate both of these kind of different types of disciplines so that students are exposed to both and receive a better education and are better prepared after they leave high school here.
So I think one of the great things about Pullman, and historically has been, is the robust nature of the programs that they've been able to offer here, or that we've been able to offer here. And that's in academics first and through co-curricular activities as well. And in order to keep our district healthy, we need to keep it attractive to people to want to come here, to want to put their kids here, and to not take them out and look for alternative schooling. And so it's going to be a huge priority to get creative, as these others have said, to keep as many programs and opportunities available for our students as possible. And so I don't want to sound like a broken record, but yes, we got to explore community partnerships. We got to explore alternative, solutions to these things. But keeping our full-time enrollment up is our #1 source of funding. And so by keeping that as high as we can and offering as many things as possible, then that's going to keep more money coming in from the state and from the feds. And so that's got to be our priority, is try to make our district as attractive as possible by offering as many programs and activities and clubs as we can. Now, we need to do it responsibly, and will have to be hard decisions at times, and figuring out where you draw the line. But to keep it as robust as possible, I think is very, very important, and it would be a priority for me on the board.
Thank you. We'll start with Hannah on this next question. How would you describe the role of teachers and parents unions in supporting quality education in our district?
I think unions are super important. I'm really lucky to be a union employee here at the library. I think teachers are at their best when they feel supported, when they have access to the resources they need. And I think that's a huge role that teachers unions play, obviously, supporting our teachers. That's all I got.
I'm sorry, could you clarify, did you say paras or parents?
Paras.
Okay, sorry, I didn't hear. I happened to work for the National Education Association in Washington, D.C., and worked in government relations there, and was able to benefit quite a bit from the experience. Although I can't say that I would never want to be a lobbyist or work in government relations again. Working for that organization and then interaction with teachers and paras in Pullman, I can see the benefit and the amount of support that they receive by just being in the union. Prior to this, I lived in South Carolina, which is a right to work state, where they had very weak unions. And I can see the difference in how teachers are appreciated and the support that they get from the organization. And I am a supporter of the WEA in the state and have received their endorsement. So I am obviously pro-teachers union.
So I think unions play a unique role in any organization, and I mean, obviously their job is to advocate for who they're representing, right? And so at the bargaining table, they're going to advocate for raises and things like that. But one unfortunate thing that I think comes from that, and I think it's seen here and other places, but it also creates an us versus them situation between, say, the school board and the administration and the teachers. So there's a fine balance there in what that role does, and it can be a tough hurdle to cross, because I think what we need in our school district is unity, and we need that top to bottom through the district. And so, yes, I agree, and I can see the function and the form of what unions do and what they're trying to do for the teachers and staff. And teachers and staff do need to have representation. They need to be appreciated. They need to be cared for. But if we can maintain those things without the divide, I think that would be a really healthy thing for our district, to draw the administration and the teachers back together, working together, the board, everyone as a team, for the health of our district and for the good of our students. So yes, I want to see our teachers supported. I want to see them have great benefits and payroll and things like that. That it's important to have, you know, people that feel valued in what they do, but not at the other costs that can come from that adversity, I guess. That's often there.
So I resigned from the Pullman School District in 2021. I taught in the district for 10 years, and I was part of the union the entire time. I was a leader also in the union. In the last 2 years, I was the vice president alongside Luke Conley, who was our president. And man, did we have a good time. It was during COVID. You couldn't pay me to go back to that time, right, Bob? Nope. Because we all know what a fluid situation COVID was, and we would literally work on something for 8-9 hours, and drop of a hat, everything would change, and we'd pivot and start all over. I will say, I understand what Brandon's saying, but I believe quite the opposite. Unions bring teachers together. Unions give teachers a voice who feel like they don't have one. Unions, especially in Pullman, the way that ours ran, it was nothing but support and love. And that might sound a little cheesy, but that's what it was. And it helped people stand up for what they needed and wanted in their workplace, while feeling supported. You know, and it wasn't just always work. Like, it was a good time. Like, get together. We had socials once a month, and sometimes we get together more often than that. But for me, a union was a very positive thing. I don't think, in my opinion, you shouldn't be a teacher without being a union member because of all the supports that you can get. And it's way more positive than a negative or an us versus them thing. So I guess that's the only thing that I would disagree with. It helped me become a better communicator, and it helped me learn how to work closely with our superintendent.
Deena, we'll start this one with you. How will you gather feedback from your constituents so you can accurately represent them?
I've thought about this quite a bit. I think unfortunately we have not, or I say we, but the school district has not adequately reached a number of underserved communities within Pullman. And part of that reason is that when we have certain events, whether it's a town hall or community discussions, unfortunately we emphasize communication, but that really means that we have to go to where people are and be able to accommodate a lot of people who are unable to come to traditional meetings, whether they're PTA meetings or just events at school. And so communication really means going to them within, their spaces and their times that they're available, and gathering feedback that way and actually listening, not just gathering information and then not continuing that communication back and forth. And it means doing that regularly. So not just, a single event every once in a while, but doing that on a regular basis so that there is trust built between community members, families, students, and board directors.
So I would try to gather feedback in the ways that I actually have been over the last year. Just meeting with people and talking to them, trying to be approachable and trying to be transparent and just say, hey, I'm thinking about running for school board. I started attending meetings about a year ago just to get the idea of how it operates, how it functions, what they're doing on a week-to-week basis on the board. But then, going to events, and as Deena said, not everyone can show up to events, different things like that. But being available, approachable, and being involved in our community, I think is huge. I'm not running for school board to do anything for myself. It's for our community. It's for what I think is better, and I want to represent the community well. And the only way to do that is by listening and engaging with people and hearing their feedback. And if I was elected on the board, I know that there are rules on how you can respond and what you can say and doing things appropriately. But I think that's one thing that can be difficult is figuring out the balance of how to actually respond to people, not just take their feedback, but to actively show that you're doing something with it and and discussing it in a meeting forum or in a public forum so that they see that you're doing something with what they've talked to you about. And so that's one way that sometimes I've felt a little bit frustrated in watching people give public comment, say at a board meeting, and then not really ever hear if it was followed through or anything come of it. So I think that I know that some of the things are heard that people are saying, but oftentimes it doesn't seem like there's action going to it. So I would like to be feet to that action and a voice for that kind of feedback. But I will have learning to do in order how to appropriately do that within the rules and laws that govern how a school board functions. But definitely making myself available, continuing to be involved in the things in our community that I already am, and just trying to be approachable and able and willing to talk to people and listen to what they have to say.
So this is one of my favorite things that I would get to be a part of as being a school board member is a lot like what Deena said is going out to the public, out to community members. Because again, that's like the coolest thing that I've figured out through this whole process is how such a wealth of resources and knowledge and willingness to want to participate in the district, but never hearing back from anyone. And a lot like what Brandon said, validating what they do stand up and say at a board meeting, and did you hear back from someone, and just that follow through, because it's not just someone showing up at the meetings and sharing their concerns. That's the start of the relationship. And then we have to have the back and forth and using the resources in our community. Also being in the schools, that's another one. The 10 years that I was teaching, I taught in Sunnyside Elementary, I taught at Jefferson Elementary, I taught at Kamiak Elementary, and I've been an adjunct professor at WSU, teaching future teachers, and I now work with future teachers, observing them in the classroom. So I'm in the schools every week, 2 or 3 days a week, listening to our teachers. What do our teachers need? What do our teachers want? Do they feel validated? Because guess what? The district says that students are first. If students are truly first, then teachers kind of have to be first, right? Because they're the ones who are providing the education and creating those relationships with those students and their parents, and they need to be heard and validated. I feel that very, very strongly. I'm on social media already, like I think everybody up here is. I would love to give little reports each week after school board meetings, of course, within the rules, but also host events at least monthly where people can come to me and we can meet and I can make sure people feel validated.
Yes, going last is kind of a bummer because it's like, yes, everything has been said. When I was on Student Senate, I was always be like, no piggybacking. So I'm trying to keep that in mind. But yeah, definitely the social media piece I think is really important. Email, surveys, trying to reach folks who aren't able to come to those meetings. Remembering that just because someone has the loudest voice or the most likes on their comment on Facebook doesn't necessarily mean they have the group thought or the group opinion. So remembering that, you know, those smaller voices or those less powerful voices that we're trying to reach are just as important.
And Brandon, this one's going to start with you. It's, how should the district balance academic rigor with mental health and well-being?
So mental health is obviously a very important thing, and it seems like it's talked about a lot lately, and in stress and different things and different factors in life, and how people cope and what they're allowed to do. But academics come first, right? And so I don't believe that our district is asking too much of any students. To quote my nephew, he says, I can go to school 1 day a week and maintain my grades. And he's a really good student. But that to me, and he's probably being a bit facetious, but he is a good student, so maybe he could get away with that. And I know there's talent levels and there's different things and different giftings, but I don't think that the academic stress that we're putting on kids is creating too many mental health issues. I think that them being involved in academics and being involved in the community and having people around them in activities is what's going to boost their mental health. If a kid says I can't go to school and because I'm too stressed out, and I think things are going to tank if they're at home alone by themselves. That's probably the worst place for them to be. So staying in community and staying with other peers and being lifted up, and teachers and having people speak into their life, and paraeducators and people that truly love and care for them and show them compassion and kindness. Because I don't think you go into teaching if you don't want to love on kids, So being at school and in the seats and in the classrooms with people that care about you and are looking you in the eyes and saying, hey, how can I help you today, and what can we do together today? That's the best place for them. So academic rigor is a good thing. Challenge is a good thing for kids. It's only going to strengthen them. They're only going to grow through that. And school is the place that's prepping us, as I think Hannah said, it's this generation that's in school is going to be the one taking care of me someday. So I'd love to see them challenged now so that they're ready to enter the workforce and they're ready to do things later. And so I think that's where I'm at.
So what a lot of people don't realize in Pullman is that we have a higher level of poverty than people think. We also have a higher level, since the C word, since COVID, of mental health struggles. And when I had students coming into my classroom who hadn't eaten for 2 days on a Monday morning, that affects their mental health and their mental capabilities, and they are not able to function at all. And that goes on every single day in the Pullman School District. I will say the Pullman School District did a great job during COVID and has done a great job of providing meals year-round to families. We also have programs like the food pantries that teachers can go down to the food pantry and grab a bunch of granola bars or fresh fruit or whatever the choice is that week, crackers, and those kids who didn't eat all weekend can sit at the back table, and maybe they just came from their free breakfast in the lunchroom, but they're still hungry. They're growing. They need more than nothing over the weekend. It's very real. Pullman School District is amazing at academics. Do we have some things that we can fix? Yes, absolutely. But you are not going to get academic rigor from any child who's hungry or has mental health issues. This is not just a Pullman, Washington thing. This is not just a Washington State thing. This is the entire country. This is another area that I'm pretty passionate about, getting these kids the help that they need. Pullman School District has done what they can. I feel like we can do more, and this is where we've got to get creative with how we get that funding to just be able to help more and more students and their families eventually.
Excuse me. So when I was in high school, I was that kid. I was in AP classes, I was doing Running Start, I had a million extracurriculars, I was senior class officer, I was working at the frozen yogurt shop, I was doing everything, and I was struggling with anxiety, struggling with depression, and just like having the worst time. Like I remember during my senior year, just like going into the bathroom and crying because I was so stressed out, and I felt like I just had to do everything, and like the weight of the world was on me. And so I can only imagine what it's like for kids now who are in that same position, especially when you're in such a high achieving area, or when success is all around you, or you hear a lot about, you know, how well the Pullman High School like athletic teams are doing, and all the work that they put in there, which is wonderful. But then you also have the kind of stigmas associated with that. Like, I have to be the best. The standard has been set. I have to do X, Y, and Z. And so it is not necessarily just the academics. It is home life. It is extracurriculars. It is jobs. It is family. And so holistically, taking care of a student's mental health has to be a priority, or all the other things don't come after it.
I have to agree with Hannah. Mental health resources are vitally important for students of all ages, whether they're in elementary school or they're in middle school or high school. And I think it's very difficult to be a student and a child these days, because oftentimes families are struggling. As Stephanie had mentioned, we have a high rate of poverty here. There are a number of unhoused families, people who face food insecurity, and these things really add up. And so in order to function at capacity academically, we need to invest in greater resources in mental health. And unfortunately, we are in an area where it's very difficult for people to access those resources. They just aren't here. And what that means is that people have to rely on what is offered in their schools. And for that reason alone, I think it's very important that we put a greater focus on mental health. That doesn't even include the issues that are related to school safety. So it's necessary to balance the two, but I think that we need to place a greater emphasis on things like mental health awareness and mental health resources for students of all ages and backgrounds.
Okay, Stephanie, this one's going to start with you. Okay. And this question is, what is your experience with Robert's Rules of Order and running of open meetings?
Honestly, my knowledge of Robert's Rules of Order goes back to FFA at Pomeroy High School, where I grew up. And to be honest, I haven't had any extra training since then. I don't attend many board meetings right now. I watch them every week or every other week. from home on YouTube. I hope people tap into that resource if you can attend the meetings. You're tapping into that because it's amazing that we can do that. So I have a pretty good basic knowledge, but I would love, the idea I've had is to have the Pullman FFA come into a school board meeting and give everybody a little presentation and a little brush up on how to run some parliamentary procedure.
Yes, so I served on the student senate at WSU for undergrad for 3 years. I was the pro tempore of the senate for 1 year. I was on GPSA for another year, so me and Robert's rules are besties, you could say. And I had to follow all the OPMA rules about agendas and minutes, and don't email more than 3 people because then it's considered a meeting. So, yeah, all that good stuff. But I like the FFA idea.
Robert's rule of order we are not besties. I can't say that I particularly like them. And a lot of that is because I don't use them that often. It's not been since high school, working for student council that I've had to use them. Although I will say that serving as a secretary on the board of a nonprofit has helped me become a little bit more acquainted with what we have to do. But I do know, because I've looked into this, that there are trainings available for new school board directors, which I'm thankful for, and I'm always willing to learn. I have participated in a number of public meetings, so I am aware of the rules. I know that there are legality issues, and every board has, or council has, specific policies that they have adopted in terms of communication and the rules of quorum and so forth. So I am familiar more with the rules rather than how to make motions and pass them, but it's something that I think I can adapt to and acquire pretty quickly.
I believe you.
Thank you.
So I've never formally taken a class, or I wasn't a part of FFA when I was in high school, but I am familiar with Robert's Rules of Orders and how meetings run, and I can appreciate the purpose of them to keep things on track and on a timeline, and even for the Open Public Meetings Act law stuff, I'm familiar with that too. As I said, I worked with Whitman County Public Works Department for 13 years, and 5 years of that I spent as the maintenance operations manager. And so oftentimes, basically every 2 weeks, we were meeting with the county commissioners, and we had to put forth a lot of motions and things for them, and create that kind of stuff for our department. And so very familiar with, notifications and protocols for hearings and things like that, and posting things in the paper. I do appreciate them. Sometimes I get a little frustrated because I like to be a little more casual than those rules offer. But the purpose of them is important, and to keep things on track, and to run a timely meeting, and keep professional, courtesies, and offer people a certain amount of things so things don't get out of hand. But yeah, not super formally trained, but definitely have experience with them and an appreciation for what they're for.
Anna, we'll start with you on this one. What steps would you take to close achievement gaps between student groups?
Thinking about, we just did a reading on this for one of my classes, so I'm trying to get back in my academia mode. So a lot of what we see, why we see achievement gaps is because of structural problems, is because of socioeconomic statuses and the disparities there, racial disparities, gender disparities. So we have to fix those and address those if we're going to tackle achievement gaps and the deficits that we see there, which is easier said than done. but I think just being able to acknowledge that and to have a starting line and know where we're starting and what we need to tackle is important.
Achievement gaps are oftentimes resource gaps. And it's not just socioeconomic differences between different groups. It is oftentimes institutionalized rules and structures that inhibit certain groups from excelling as much as other groups. And I think that that really needs to be examined and fixed from kind of the root problem and not just superficially.
So I guess I'm the least educated on this panel, maybe, or the least, I'm not a teacher, okay? But as a board member, I can appreciate the professionality that we have in our school district and our teachers, administrators, counselors. And I believe that my job as a board member to help close achievement gaps would be to talk to them, the professionals, and say, what resources do you need? And then it would be my job to figure out how we can budget for and provide the resources that they need to do the things. So I will be totally honest that me personally, my education and background is not suited to do that. I don't have the skills for that, but I would look to the professionals that do, and then I would say, okay, you tell me what you need, and then I'm gonna try and figure out how I can work on it on my end to provide you the resources you need to help those students and bring those gaps closer together.
So it starts with the teacher. For all the reasons that have already been mentioned, there can be achievement gaps in a classroom. Starts with the teacher. Starts with simple differentiation of activities. Sometimes that's outlined in the curriculum for you, sometimes that's not. Sometimes kids need to be referred to a response to intervention team. I don't know what it's called now, Bob, but it was RTI, I think, or SIT. There's so many acronyms. This day and age, you have to be able to memorize 542 acronyms to be a teacher. So just be thankful, Brandon, that you don't have to do that. But anyway, it's been RTI, it's been SIT, it's been so many different things. But every building has one of those teams, and you can take students that you're concerned about. You can take their names to this SIT team, or I'm just going to call it an intervention team. And you can come up with a plan for your students to help close gaps, and that gets really individualized for those students, and it's a wonderful tool. Sometimes students, that's not enough, and sometimes they need to be referred to the special education assessment process. So those are a few of the more formal ways that we address it in the Pullman School District, but really and truly a lot of the gaps can be closed by teachers using their tools and their talents, because teachers have to get creative, and constant communication with parents and working as a team with the parents to be able to work with their child so that you can close the gaps. There's groups, there's study groups that kids can be a part of. Sometimes families hire tutors, things like that. But Pullman School District right now does a really good job, actually, of trying to close the gaps. Could we always use more resources? Absolutely. But we're doing okay.
Deena, this one's going to start with you. The district has an opening for a special ed teacher. What can you do as a director to initiate, to get more applicants?
That's actually a really difficult question because I don't have that experience directly. My best answer would be to really rely on a network of teachers to communicate the opening of a position like that, and to leverage the resources that are available to us and bring it to the rest of the board and see if there's a way that we can use incentives to recruit more people and bring more applicants for that position.
Could you read the question one more time?
Possibly. Let's see where I got it here. The district has an opening for a special ed teacher. What can you do as a director to initiate, to get more applicants?
So the school district has a website. Any job positions come open on there. I know they advertise them internally, look through, for applications for internal teachers, but then put it out. It's on the website. Through my experience in hiring with Whitman County, there's lots of different avenues that you can use. I would have to see what other avenues the school district is already using to speak into that more. But I mean, one of the things is radio advertisement, they say, is really popular. There's social media, there are multiple platforms out there, but for a special ed teacher, that's a bit of more of a unique role. And if you don't have those teachers, the qualified candidates already here, how to look, get a farther reach. I think that's going to be mainly through internet platforms. And I do believe that the school district is already using them, but it might come down to policy too, and resources on advertisement. I know that hiring is one of the, hiring and rehiring for positions is very frustrating, and it gets very costly, and training new employees and onboarding and those things, it's a hassle. So one of our best things that we can do is try to retain our teachers and appreciate them and keep them around, because I know constant turnover was a real frustration in the public works sector that I worked in, and I know it is also in the school district systems as well.
So I'm not going to say it, the piggyback word, but in addition to what Brandon and Deena have already said, when there's a special education teacher opening, it hurts. It hurts big time, because guess what? There's a shortage of teachers in this country right now. There's an even bigger shortage of special education teachers. So yeah, in addition to what everybody else has said, you get a team and you start going maybe to universities and say, who have you got, and are they graduating in December, and can I have them right now? You gotta get creative. Actually, when I was hired as a special education teacher, I had not finished my master's in special education yet, and I had an endorsement. And so I got hired conditionally. I had enough for what's the word? Endorsement. Thank you. Let's look at Bob, because guess what? Bob hired me. So I had enough credits for an endorsement so they could hire me, and then I had a time stipulation for when I needed to have that full special education background. And so that's one way to do it also, is to go find some of those teachers who are working towards their special education teaching certificate and poach them. Well, I guess that insinuates that we're kind of stealing, but no, we need to go out in the state of Washington and find these teachers, or sometimes you find retired teachers who are willing to come back until we can find somebody more permanent.
No, okay. I don't have any of that. Great ideas all around, folks.
Okay, then this one goes to, I'm sorry, I started that one with you, right, Tim?
Yes.
Yeah, you started that.
I guess so.
Yes.
Sorry. So this one then goes to you, Brandon, sorry. What do you feel are the top needs of the school district?
The top needs in our school district, one, I think that it's the bond with the community that needs to be reestablished, revamped. People have mentioned already tonight, so financial needs, right, is the big thing, up against financial revenue. problems. So how do we maintain the programs that we have? How do we do the things we want to do on limited resources? And I mean, I think that's going to be through community partnerships. And that means that we have to be listening to the community and talking to them, and it has to be a two-way conversation. And so I think bringing our community together around this, problem solving together, getting creative, and bringing it together, because as we've already said as well, these students that are in our school system are the next generation. They're going to be the ones leading us as we go forward. So we have to keep them at the forefront, that they are, putting students first, and that's our goal. And how do we provide this, what they need, and offer the classes, the programs, to give them a well-rounded education and prepare them for college or technical school or whatever's next for them. But so I think rebuilding the trust and communication with the community and getting community partnerships and thinking outside the box to increase our revenue, find alternative revenue streams so that money isn't the forefront of the problems, so that we can keep things going. And that's going to happen through reestablished trust, community partnerships, and just building things together and two-way communication.
So, my opinion of the top need in this district is better relationships from the top down. If you don't feel respected, validated, seen, and heard by your boss, whether that's your principal, the assistant superintendent, the superintendent, that is going to drag you down and wear on you over time. Unfortunately, we had a vote of no confidence in 2018. And of course, I was a part of that because I was a part of the teachers union. It was unfortunate that we had to do it, but we felt very strongly as teachers that it was the only way we were going to feel heard. Since 2018, the teachers have asked for better relationships in this district. You can go look on YouTube. I got up in front of the board in 2018 and I said, you walk into the district office and it is a really nice place to be. There are great relationships in the district office. Still feels like that. That's awesome for them. You walk into the school buildings and teachers are being given less money every year for their classrooms because of cuts. Teachers are now limited on the number of copies that they can make every month. There are no field trips anymore. Those are just a few things, and I only have 30 seconds. But the number one thing missing from this school district is a better relationship between the district office and the buildings. And I want so badly to be a part of the solution to fix that so that we can go forward.
I just forgot the question.
What do you feel are the top needs of the school district?
Top needs, thank you. So I think going back to the mental health question, having counselors and therapists who are available to students, especially at the middle and high school, I think is really important. That was something I heard at the community listening sessions as well. And then doing whatever we can to support our teachers. Without them, the schools don't run. So I think they are one of our most important stakeholders. And so just supporting them and knowing that they have our support as community members and board members and admin and whoever it may be, I think is really important.
I think there are three major things that I would focus on and that I think should be emphasized. The first one would be a fundamental change in culture where there is greater trust between board members and the public, the community at large. Right now, I don't think that people feel that the board is responsive to their needs or requests. I know in particular there are families that have felt like they've had to battle with the school district to get resources for SPED students and their families. And excuse me, I think that the board is accountable to the constituents that vote for them, and that the power dynamic has to switch so that the board ensures accountability from the superintendent and district administration rather than the other way around. And I think that there needs to be greater participation and true engagement. So rather than just sending like surveys to teachers or to families, there needs to be real engagement so that, for instance, if there's a survey that I participated in as a parent, I actually see all of the results of that survey and not just the highlights of what's good. I think there needs to be a greater emphasis and investment in mental health. I think that goes a long way towards safety in schools. And finally, just in general, greater collaboration and integration with other institutions in the community. So working with the people from the university, working with the city government, county government, SEL, different community organizations. I think that there are strides being made currently and a recognition that families need those resources and that we need to be a little bit more flexible, and we can't be, as a school district, separated out from the rest of the community.
Okay, Stephanie, this one, we'll start with you. Okay. Can you give us an incidence of when you have doggedly pushed an issue to completion?
Raising children. Teaching first grade for 10 years. Gosh, nothing specific is coming to mind, but teaching and raising kids that's a marathon. And now all my kids are out of the house and they still come around and they still need you, right? Like your kids get older and gosh, but like a specific project, well, that would be my schooling. That would be a plan and execution of any lesson plan or huge project I've ever done. I don't know, it feels like big or small, we're all doing that, right? Every day, so, sorry.
I guess I could talk about my work here at the library a little bit. So I am the youth services assistant part-time, but I was working full-time this summer. As most of you I'm sure know, we do a lot for summer reading here for the kids. I always tell people that the kids in Pullman don't know how good they have it because of all the programs and the grab-and-go bags and the books and everything that the library has to offer. But it was just me and my boss, Rachel, the director, and we were the only two in youth services, and we put on over 60 programs in 3 months this summer. And that was something that usually we have another full-time person on staff with us. And so being down someone 40 hours was obviously a real challenge, but we always strive to serve the kids in this area. We know how important the library is, how important library services are, what a highlight, the reptile man coming in, or the magician guy, or whatever it may be, but like that, those are memories that the kids will cherish forever. So really just sitting down and making that plan and knowing our goals and our objectives, even if they felt a little far-fetched at the time, just being able to be efficient with our time and collaborate and communicate with other library staff about events we had going on that day, what was going on that week, those sorts of things. So really proud of the work we did, and I hope maybe you or a child or a grandchild got to see something this summer, but.
I'll be honest with you, sometimes just getting my 2 boys to school without using a curse word is a really great achievement for me, and I take pride in those little moments. But on a more serious note, I was one of several community members that got together and worked with the school district to initiate a community advisory committee, which later turned into the DEIB task force. And that took a lot of cooperation among individuals in terms of what we wanted to see, and patience, and working with different people who had different goals. And that's definitely something that I am proud to be a part of.
There's a few different things in life, you know, that as you go along that stick out, right? So when I was pretty young, my dad got me and my siblings these little plaques, and they had a word on them. And my word was desire, and it said some people, you know, things come to some people because they're gifted or they're talented, but then other people have to get them because they desire it, you know, like, and they push for it. And so when my wife and I purchased a triplex, that was for a rental property, you know, for passive income, for something to pass on to our kids. We did that because we desired to do that. And, you know, taking steps and financial decisions to make it so that it could happen. When it needed a roof, and I needed to do it in September, because that's when I was available, and working on it for 13 out of 14 days to try and beat the rain. That was desire, you know, that was pushing something to completion. And when I was done, I felt pretty good about it, but man, my body was tired, I'll tell you that. But one of my proudest accomplishments was honestly working at Whitman County. When I first started there, it was a temporary job, but I quickly decided this is somewhere where I want to work. And so as a temporary employee, I pushed to get my CDL so I could get hired on as a heavy equipment operator, because I saw an opening. One of the guys on my crew that I was working with was going to transfer. There was going to be an opening. I was like, if I can get my CDL, I can get that job. And then I got that job, and I was looking for the next one. What's the next promotion? And looking at the guys in management there and which position I could get. And after a year or two, I had kind of settled on the maintenance operations manager position. And I was like, well, what do I have to do to get that position? And so I was like, well, anytime there's a middle manager job, I'm going to apply for it. And anytime there's an opportunity to take some overtime, I'm going to do it. And so I did, and I just always there. I'm going to work hard, I'm going to keep my head up, I'm going to do the best job I can do. And I got frustrated because some of those middle manager jobs came open, and then there was an internal transfer, and I didn't get it. And I was like, well, if I don't get that, then I'm never going to get it, because there was a clock ticking on when that guy was going to retire. And I transferred into the roads department from the bridge crew, and lo and behold, 8 years into that career path, that job, that guy retired, I applied and I got it. And that's one of the proudest achievements that I've had.
So we're to our last question, and it's maybe not a fair one to ask you right before the closing statements, but I'm going to do it anyway.
I'm scared.
So we're going to start with you, Hannah, and it's, what do you think sets you apart from the other school board candidates?
I think this is a really hard question, because I think me and Deena have a lot of the same values and a lot of the same views on things. I did an interview with the Lewiston Tribune on Friday, and the takeaway that the reporter had was, oh, okay, so the headline is Hannah endorses opponent. I was like, okay, maybe not. It's probably a terrible answer, but I think that whoever wins, the kids and parents and teachers of the district are going to be very lucky to have. I felt that way too when we still had Ben in the race, like 3 really great options. And so, I mean, there's not a bad pick. And I mean, just knowing that there's not a bad pick has been really reassuring to me as a community member and someone who is invested in the community and in education. So yeah, I didn't answer the question, but that's all I got.
Thank you for the praise. I have to say that Hannah's right. I think that, you know, you can't go wrong with either one of us, and I would throw my support behind Hannah if she were elected and would continue to work towards change and improvement in the school district, regardless of the outcome in November. In terms of, you know, distinction between all of us, we all have different life experiences. I'm not an educator other than, you know, undergraduate, so I guess that's, you know, that counts. But I can say personally, you know, growing up in Pullman, and at the time, I was, as far as I know, it wasn't until 4th or 5th grade that I was in another class with a student whose parents were immigrants or who was a dual language learner. And I think that having that background, being able to relate to people that may not necessarily feel like they can be involved or feel intimidated or shut out from participating is probably one of my biggest assets. Just that understanding. You know, also, you know, raising my 2 kids on my own, I think, is a struggle at times, and it makes me a bit more empathetic towards other parents who are in similar situations and facing obstacles. And I think that empathy is really important.
I think Stephanie's great. I think that Stephanie and I stand in this similar place on a lot of things. I do think we have different backgrounds. She has a teaching background. She's very familiar with the school system. I'm married to a teacher, and so I'm familiar in that right, you know, like, but I've also spent some time in other organizations, and I do think that there's things from the outside perspective that I can bring in to that. I do feel like I'm well connected in our community. I know a lot of people. I hear a lot of voices. I engage in different activities, meeting a lot of kids through youth sports, and, you know, coaching my own kids and other parents that way. And not to say that Stephanie doesn't have connections and things like that to our community, but that's what I want to be. I want to be a voice for our community on the board. And I think that there's some things that I bring to the table that maybe Stephanie doesn't, but I also think she's a great candidate. I think there are a few issues that we do differ on based on the last forum. I took a different stance than anyone at the table on the issue of kids that struggle with gender dysphoria in sports and the protection of girls' sports. And that's something that I'll firmly stand on as a board member. And I would advocate, and I would ask our board to take a stance and vote with the WIA or put positions forward to protect girls' sports. That's something that I would definitely stand on in this position. And so that I think maybe sets me apart. I would let Stephanie answer different if she wants to. But again, like the ladies in District 4 are saying, I think you got 2 pretty good choices in District 5. And we'll see what happens in November.
Thank you, Brandon. Brandon and I actually had a conversation back in May when we were turning our names in, and we're like, oh, we're like really similar on like 85% of the topics. Do we both need to run? And we had a standoff, and here we are. No, and any one of us up here would do an amazing job. What sets me apart and what I feel maybe should be a rule for school boards is that a former teacher is on the school board. to be a voice for the teachers. Craig Nelson, who was my boss and one of my favorite bosses I've ever had, he's on the school board, but guess what? He's like considered admin, and he can be a big scary guy still sometimes. And I don't want the school board to be intimidating. I want the school board to make the relationships with community members and parents and students and teachers. Yeah, I've got a little bit of an inside track because I did teach in the district for 10 years. And now my part-time job is to be a field supervisor for WSU, and I supervise student teachers, and I'm in almost all of the schools every week, like I've said before. And I still get approached by teachers, hey, staff, you got an extra 5 minutes? Can you talk to me? I'm on my break. Like, I need your advice on a union thing, or I need to know, oh, I'm doing this project and I need your advice because you are so creative and you have great resources, or could you share this with me? Could we meet? So I've just established a lot of those relationships, and that's what I love. I'm a people person. I want to be out in the community, even more so now. Like I said, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but I was so pleasantly surprised by the amount of community members I had amazing conversations with. And we're emailing and we're talking, and I say hi to them in the grocery store, and then I'm stuck in the grocery store, but not stuck. I mean, we're solving all the problems of the world. And I just feel like at my age, maybe I've got a little more time for that right now with all of my kids out of the house also. That goes with all the education experience and background I have.
So now it's time for closing remarks, even though it seems like we maybe just had them. But now you get 2 more minutes. And we're going to start with you.
What can I say that hasn't already been said? I think we can all agree that we are up here and running for our respective positions because we want to affect change and because we believe in the school district. I have always felt that public education is a resource that we need to stand behind. And it's something that has been very important to me, and something that I know as a board director that I would be good at. We need people who can critically analyze policies, people who are willing to invest additional time in better understanding the consequences of our actions, and people who are willing to genuinely engage with the public. A forum like this, as useful as it is to so many people, it's often difficult to relay, your thoughts about a certain topic. And so I encourage anybody here and anybody watching to please reach out if you have any questions. I am not the type of person who will just stand on an opinion stubbornly. I am willing to have a discussion and be able to engage with people respectfully, because I understand that I am representing the community as a whole. And it's very important to me that I do that well and faithfully. And so I encourage anybody to feel free to approach me and to have a discussion with me, or to just say, hey, I disagree and this is why. I think you should change your mind. I appreciate that. So I thank you for your time and your investment and effort into being here tonight.
First off, I just want to thank you all for being here. Thank the League of Women Voters for putting this on and just giving this forum and this opportunity to talk and kind of share who I am and what I'm about. Just to reiterate a few things, I think rebuilding, connection between the school district and the community is super important. I think we all are Pullman School District. It's the kids in the district are the next leaders. We've said that multiple times tonight. And so it matters to all of us. It should matter to everyone in our community what direction our school district is headed, the things that are happening in our school district. As I said before, and others did too, it's a part of the culture of our town. It's also one of the largest employers in our town. So there are a lot of people in our community that depend on this school district and the success of it. And I want to see it run efficiently, economically, responsibly. I want the best for our kids. I want, to continue putting them first. And as Stephanie said earlier, if the students are first, who else is first? The teachers, the ones that are right there with them. I care deeply about teachers and educators. I've said that before. Married to a teacher. My mom's a teacher. My sister-in-law's a teacher. A lot of our friends are teachers and staff. And so, again, I think that this is a great school district. I think there's room for improvement. I think that a strong leader that's willing to stand up in the community and stand up in our district is someone that we want. I'd love to be that. I'd love to be a voice for the community on the board and try and rebuild that connection. I hope that I can be approachable. I would love to answer any more questions directly. Feel free to email me, talk to me here, give me a call. I just appreciate your time and your taking the time to value this and to listen to all of us so that you can make an informed decision. But I would be honored for your vote in November.
I was terrified to come here tonight, to be fully transparent. I want to thank everybody for taking time. Your questions were awesome. I wrote every single one of them down because I want to reflect more on them. And yes, thank you to the League of Women Voters and also to the Democratic group who did all the pups and cups this summer. That was just awesome. Pullman is such an amazing community. And that's why I wanted to move back here. I wanted my kids to go to school here. We have amazing resources with the university and the big companies like Schweitzer Engineering, and the diversity of culture. It's so rich and we have so much to learn from one another. And I want to be a part of making our school district just better and better and better. And we can't do that without relationships, and we can't do that without full communication, like everybody's already said up here tonight. I feel like I'm a good communicator. It's also very selfish of me because I've met these guys up here and gotten to know them, and I know that we'll see each other and we'll be happy to see each other in the community. And I've gotten to know several of you, and it's selfish because I love making connections, and making those connections and communicating effectively is how we will make the school district stronger and better for our students. Because yeah, they're our future. I feel like there's a song from the 80s that I could start singing any minute, but they are our future and they're going to take care of us. And the Pullman School District Public Schools, to me, are the most important resource that we have in our community. And it's important to be all in and ready to do the work. And that's what I'm here for. So thank you.
All right, last one. One of the main reasons I was running is because I got a great public education. I grew up on the west side, and so somebody was kind and generous enough to donate their time to the school board there, and I feel I'm in a place right now where I am also able to donate my time and my energies. And I was raised in a family where if you have that time to donate, you are obligated to do so. I love Pullman. Going on 3 degrees, if me and Pullman didn't get along, I would have left. And I've loved getting to interact with kids and parents and teachers, both here at the library and in the schools as a substitute, and in my brief coaching career at Pullman Parks and Rec. Let's not bring that up. So I just think I offer, like I said at the beginning, a unique perspective, someone who is able to represent grad students who I don't think a lot of folks think of when they think of the schools, but there are a lot of grad students who have kids in the schools, and even though they may only be here for 3 or 4 years, still a group with unique needs and who should have a voice on the school board as well. So that's my spiel. Thank you for being here tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed the show. Yes, thank you, ladies.
So, thank you all. I would like to thank all the candidates for participating and everybody for attending this evening. There is still time to register to vote if you are not registered. The last date to register by mail or online is October 27th. Ballots will be mailed starting this week. If you do not receive your ballot by next week, contact the Whitman County Elections Office. Elections Day is November 4th. Please don't forget to sign your ballot. And to ensure your ballot is counted, use the drop box or make sure your ballot is mailed by Friday, October 31st. All ballots have to go to Spokane to be postmarked. They don't get postmarked in Whitman County, so you want to mail them early to ensure that they get postmarked and counted, because it really doesn't count if it's not counted, so make sure that happens. And I want to let you know that the video is going to be up on YouTube by mid-morning tomorrow, so good job on the turnaround there, Paul. And if you click at the bottom of the YouTube logo on the lwvpullman.org page, it will take you right to our YouTube page, take you right to the videos, so you can share that with anybody who wasn't able to make it tonight, who needs to be able to watch and find out a little bit more about who they want to vote for. So thank you all for coming, and we really appreciate you coming to participate. So thanks.